Musk's grandfather was Joshua Haldeman, who was a bigwig in something called Technocracy Inc., which got shut down. He wanted to create a society in which there were no politicians, there were no elections, there were appointed technocrats and bureaucrats. And he was a big supporter, it seems, of Hitler. The Technocracy Inc. produced a map, what they called a technate, and it went from the north of South America, including Venezuela, Trump is very focused on, Panama, Mexico, United States, Canada, and Greenland, which is kind of extraordinary when you see what's happening with current events. When Technocracy Inc. was shut down in Canada, he went to South Africa, and he's a big supporter of apartheid. Elon Musk, born in South Africa. David Sachs, the AI czar of Trump, born in South Africa. Peter Thiel, massive connections to South Africa and to what is now Namibia. Another guy called Botha, who was related to Pik Botha, the last foreign minister of the apartheid regime. And then they all come together in America, together.
Why are DNA tests illegal in Israel?
There are Ashkenazi Jews who are entirely European in their DNA. That's why you're not allowed to have a DNA test in Israel, because it will reveal that virtually none of them are Semitic, virtually none of them have any ancestral connection to the land. I was viciously assaulted by a manager in the BBC who had recently converted to Judaism. It's fine, I love all religions, but you can't say I've now converted to Judaism and therefore I have a right to go to the land of Palestine and live in the house of someone whose ancestors have been living in it for thousands of years. Again,
Comment truth if you agree.
Are men. They are Jewish. They have been using the United States as their proxy because for many years they have sought to gain control of the United States, because even today this is what is called the last great superpower on earth. To get their way, they must control the United States. With the United States, then the United Nations and all of the rest of the nations of the world, including, of course, the European community, will come under their sway. I believe the Jewish ADL, or the B'nai B'rith, this Jewish Masonic Lodge, my opinion is they control the FBI. Remember, the founder of the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, was a 33rd degree Freemason. Pike is probably known as by the Masons as their greatest hero in history. He was, by the way, a Confederate Civil War general. Pike wrote a letter to Mazzini, his Italian and European counterpart, and Mason and Illuminist, and he said, our goal is a series of 3 great wars, world wars. 2 will be fought in Europe. The 3rd and final war will be fought over the Middle East. These are men of the Illuminati.
Your own bank. I think we need to create our own bank. First, to set up a community trust structure, and then you appoint everybody as a managing director of a trust, to set up a trust account for everybody. Everybody pools all this together. You buy gold and silver with it. You invest it, and you pay dividends back to everybody in the community. That's how we could run an economic system and completely bypass the federal government and the international bankers. Every community could do that. Every church could do that. Every organization could do that. Every family could do that. And watch the wealth start shifting back into your hands again instead of into the hands of those who really don't care about your wealth. The New World Order has no concern for your money, really. They just want power and control.
steal 100 to 300,000 children a year just here in this country, and we drain the blood and we mix it with the Passover bread, and then we throw the bodies into the slaughterhouses that we own, and we grind up all the bodies in the sausage and the hamburger. McDonald's is one of our favorite outlets, and the people, they eat it for breakfast, they eat their children for lunch, and you know, as Jews, you know, we gotta do what we do. The most important thing to remember between you, Pastor Wixom, and me, Rabbi Eddie Finkelstein of New York, that we both have two fathers, and so that's why we look at the world in two different ways.
And we know that there's a massive collision that's going to take place between two forces, don't we?
Well, that's what your book says. Our book says that we're going to take over the world.
Well, I look at you.
You're doing a pretty good job right now.
Yes, you've done a pretty good job, but you know, there's quite an awakening coming. And my father, who's not your father, my father Yahweh, who isn't your father, of course, your father is talked about by my father in John 8:44, stating that your father was Satan and that you're the descendant of Cain, who was the first murderer. And you know that's true because you teach it in your synagogue.
Oh, that's true, but it's not for you going to know. But right now, it's too late. It's over for you white race. So that's why I'm speaking so honestly here, to bring it out into the open so that you can see it for what it is. You've been teaching the people real good, but they don't wake up, do they? They don't get a lot of followers, do they? Because you know why? They're scared of us Jews, because they don't want to be called anti-Semites, and they believe that we're the chosen people. And so that's why we can do whatever we want to do, and we can get away with it because the white men are cowards. And we go to the synagogue all the time and have some Manischewitz and dance to Hala Nagila.
You know, it's interesting. I've told people for years and years, it's not that you Jews are hiding anything. You're coming right out on television, in the newspapers, on the radio, and you're telling the people exactly what you're going to do before you do it, and they're like they're brain dead.
Well, we did a good job with the public school system. We got you to put all of your children in there. You notice that the Jew doesn't put his children in there. They go to the Hebrew Academy, where we teach them the real things, and then they go to the synagogue and they learn the real important things. But we send your kids to the public school. We even have you tax yourself from your property so that you never own your property. We steal 100 to 300.
The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
Well, common sense would tell you, if you have a man standing in front of you saying he's going to reduce the world's population by 10 or 15% using vaccines, what does that mean to you? It means somebody's going to die because you put a vaccine in them. It doesn't mean you're going to save people. That's pretty much common sense in my brain. But yet I saw him say it. He said it. And here we are. I don't know. Here we are. I'm now an anti-vaxxer. I wasn't.
Unfortunately, I think this is just the beginning. So I've learned, when people tell you what they're going to do, don't ignore them. So when the UN and Bill Gates and Klaus Schwab tell you that they've got a UN 2030 plan with sustainable development goals, I think there are 17 or 21 of them, and every one of them says you won't be traveling, you won't have a private car, we won't be using international shipping to move goods around, there won't be any flights except military or perhaps very rich people, you won't own anything and you'll be happy, you probably won't live in your own house, you'll be using much less energy for everything, including heating, manufactured goods, and so on. When they tell you that, you should assume that they're serious about it. And so I think COVID has been part one of a multi-act play that's going to take 10 years that will destroy the liberal democracies completely. We've already, if you think you're living in a democracy, now ask yourself who you could vote for that would change this, because I don't think there's anyone you can vote for anywhere that is guaranteeing things. So I don't have an answer, but I'm telling you, I think we're sliding down through the gates of hell. I'm speaking out. There's nothing in it for me. I've lost lots of money, all my friends. I'm away from my home and family, and I'm speaking out because, as I close, I am absolutely sure what I've told you is substantial.
Africa is actually way bigger than the world makes it look. The maps we usually see are based on something called the Mercator projection, a method that tries to flatten the round Earth into a 2D surface, and in doing so it totally distorts the actual size of continents. For example, Greenland and Africa look similar in size on most maps, but in reality, Africa is 14 times larger than Greenland. In fact, Greenland is even smaller than just one African country, DR Congo. Now let's talk about Russia. On maps, it looks massive, almost larger than Africa. But here's the truth. You could fit Russia inside Africa, twice. And that's not all. The US, China, India, Japan, and all of Europe, they can all fit inside Africa at the same time. You know Africa is actually